What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here at GSD Studios. Thank you so much for checking out today's show. I'll make this extremely fast, but I need to plug our sponsor that's making today's show possible. Our sponsor today is OptimizedLifeNutrition.com with their supplement EMF. EMF stands for Energy, Memory, Focus. This is the most powerful nootropic on the marketplace. If you are like me and you're serious about having maximum amounts of energy, extreme laser focus, if you want to go out there and eliminate your brain fog, be at your best, and as well as there's proven ingredients to increase your long-term memory, then this product's for you. Check out more information, see client testimonials at www.optimizedlifenutrition.com. All right, you guys, let's dive on into today's content. What is up, our peeps? Joshua Smith at GSD Studios with another weekly session of the Ask Jim J and Dr. Grossman show. So really stoked to have you guys here. Before we jump in today's content, though, I want to definitely plug our sponsors that make all this possible. Our first sponsor is EMF, which is a great nootropic, a brain supplement, brain food, if you will, that helps you get laser focused from OptimizedLifeNutrition.com. Also, our second sponsor is CheckMyBloodwork.com. So that's actually a company name check Dr. Grossman's actual firm, actual company that Jim and Jay and myself are all patients of, that we work with him. We get our blood work checked, analyze every single level to make sure that we're fully optimized. So make sure that you guys go check those out. And we got a lot to talk about. It's good to see you guys all back here on this webinar, this podcast, man. It's been a minute. I know you guys have been busy traveling, speaking all over New York, and doing some fun things. So I know we're going to talk about fasting. We're going to talk about diabetic, pre-diabetic testing that's going on. So let's jump into that first, though, if you guys are cool with that. You know, I know that a lot of the pre-diabetic testing, is just it's being done in such kind of a, I don't know if irresponsible way is the right term to use, but a lot of people are getting classified as pre-diabetic that maybe aren't truly pre-diabetic. So let's just lead in with that, and then we'll get into fasting and talk about the metabolic blowtorch diet and all that fun stuff. So you want to lead us off, Jay?
Yeah, sure. So, I was telling these guys off air that one of my clients, actually a real estate client for Monica and I, and actually a close family friend, their daughters are actually soccer players, actually very successful soccer players. One of them actually has a scholarship, a Division I scholarship. They also babysit for us. Well, the mother sent me some lab work today for her daughter, who's 18 years old, and the doctor had mentioned to her that, hey, you're pre-diabetic. And so the mom said to me, well, you look at her lab work and tell me what would lead him to conclude that she was pre-diabetic. So I started looking through lab work, and I'm like, well, I don't see anything here from a biomarker standpoint that would indicate that she would show that, meaning there's no fasting blood glucose, there wasn't any H1C, there wasn't other biomarkers that would be indicative of that. So I said to him, where is she getting, where's the doctor getting this? And then the woman said, well, it's our family doctor, and she's probably just going off of my husband's insulin, being pre-diabetic and not eating well and having high cholesterol, blah, 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 and on it goes. So I just told her, I'm like, look, I'm not a doctor. I see a lot of, lab work, and I'm highly read on this subject. And, this is all about, living an insulin-controlled lifestyle, if your daughter is somewhat, overweight or starting to head down that path. But, at the end of the day, you can't diagnose someone as being pre-diabetic without actually having specific biomarkers checked. So, I'll let Aaron speak to that. But I think the take-home message is here today is that if you're watching this show and your family is impacted by this, and I think we all know this, guys, right? I think the majority of people are not living an insulin-controlled lifestyle, okay? You're mildly overweight. You eat processed food. You're probably not exercising enough. You maybe overconsume alcohol. Maybe you smoke cigarettes. We're not here to judge anybody if that's the lifestyle you're living, but you're not living a lifestyle that's optimal for health, okay? And we all know, as Aaron has said, and all these guys have said many times before, you cannot rely on the established medical system to improve your health. They treat disease, and that's pretty much all they do, okay? So at the end of the day, if this is what is happening to you and you're having doctors tell you you're one thing and then really not even evaluating certain biomarkers necessary to even, pronounce that thing or that, diagnosis or provide that diagnosis, then you need to seek the opinion of another doctor. Go ahead.
Well, it just goes to show you the current state of like anything in life. You need to arm yourself with certain weapons and tools of truth and information. And this is no different, especially the health space when it's your body that we're talking about here. From a basic science standpoint, people need to understand the role that IGF and insulin actually play in the development of diabetes. And once you understand the breakdown of how these interplay and what actually is causing, let's take the word diabetes, for instance, right? Diabetes is a construct. The word itself really has no meaning. It just means sugar, means urinate sugar with in your urine from the ancient Latin. So what it's really telling you is that there's plaque development from inflammation in your pancreas that's developing. So once you break down the word and look at what's really occurring, is you're having a breakdown from the dissolution of these compounds in your body that are not in balance. So you need certain tools and certain biomarkers and certain legitimate numbers that correlate with this. And your doctor and yourself should be well armed with the information in these numbers. These numbers tell us a story. It's not just one number at one time. You have your active fasting glucose, which we check for at one shot while you're fasting to see if that's in an optimal range. And then we're going to look at it from a 90-day standpoint. It's actually a little less than that according to the new data for your hemoglobin A1C. And you look at the big picture. You look at insulin levels. You look at other inflammatory markers in your body. Is sugar playing a role in the breakdown of your blood vessels? And is your pancreas being slammed as a result of that? That's really that's the real take-home message of all this.
Well said. You want to add anything, Jim?
No, it just goes back to, what we've been preaching all these years is you're going to have to become proactive in your health. And, maybe not back in 1960 or 70 where you got, a full evaluation from your GP and he knew your whole history or they knew your whole history and were familiar with you and more familiar with your specific cases or modalities. Today when you walk into an office, you could possibly be one of 80 people that is seen by a clinician in the day, And so, especially in the current state of healthcare today, you have to be more informed when you walk in the door and more proactive about maintaining your health and at least being armed with information to ask the right questions and challenge your practitioner.
If I could follow up on that, what you just said, Jim. So let's look at it from a standpoint of what the traditional healthcare system and what, let's say, an optimized lens. So you have two worlds that are kind of living in separate realities right now from a health standpoint. So you have the traditional healthcare system, and what they're looking for when you come into their office is they're checking certain key markers. The primary key marker, and the reason you get a urine screen, is they're looking to see if there's an actual breakdown of kidney function through protein loss. So there's certain small proteins that if there's enough sugar damage to your kidney because it's so susceptible to damage, it will actually leak out protein. That's all they care for, is if it got to the point where the damage is so excessive that your kidneys are now degrading and non-functional. So your EGFR and all these other markers are gone, basically. Now imagine like an eye exam. Like you go to an eye, they put different lenses on to get your prescription. You put on the prescription lens, dialing in of optimization, you're going to look for, is this leading towards that? So it's a few steps before that is what you want to be in that mindset, not if it's too late and down the road.
Good point.
Yeah. Well, our healthcare system isn't designed to make you well. It's to treat your symptoms. Basically, right? That's kind of where we're at. They're just performing triage on you with, temporary solutions. It's not curing you or having you take the corrective actions to, reverse or at least slow down the disease process without pills and, Band-Aids.
Yeah. I guess for me, what's scary about it is I know we talk a lot about a lot of physicians don't test for hormone levels, right? They're not running certain, if a guy has low T or whatever, and things that we talk about all the time there. But what kind of blows my mind or scares the hell out of me is something is common or something that's becoming such an epidemic as people becoming type 2 diabetics and all of this, that they're missing those tests on such a big level. It's just I kind of get the hormone side, but this just, to me, I just can't fathom that would even be taking place. But obviously,
Aaron, what is the reason for that? Is it just a cost structure?
I think there's a whole nother aspect of this, that and not to defend or denigrate what this particular individual did, but you have to put yourself in the shoes of this practitioner. He has an EMR system that on average, an electronic medical record system, when that client comes in, he sees him on average for maybe 19 minutes, and there's 117 clicks on average that he has to go through in order to get recompensed for a standard physical examination, which pays nothing when you really look at it. So this is the reality of what's going on right now. And the doctors mean well. They're really, there's a lot of them went into it for the wrong reasons. And I know a lot of them, and, most of them ended up doing, a different lifestyle specialization anyway, and they're going to be miserable in the end of the day anyway. But the ones that really go into these primary care health fields, these are good people. They wanted to make a difference. And I get texts from my friends that are in residency from med school. They're right now are like, I can't believe, you were right about this stuff, or I'm seeing this firsthand, and we are so effed right now in the direction we're going.
Well, a lot of them went out. I mean, they're Aaron, what can I do? I mean, how can I move somewhere else? I know.
Everybody in real estate now. He's switching out of residency to go into real estate. I'm not joking.
Well, let me just say something to that, just to add to that. I know Jim probably has something to say real quick too, but the reality is, and again, I hate to say this because I don't want to shift this to any specific person politically, but the Obama system is a fucking fraud. The whole thing is the worst thing that's ever happened to managed healthcare, to benefits, to PPO, to HMO, to all of it. And every single time I talk to a physician, as I did this weekend, I find more and more, instances of flaws and how people are opting out and strictly going to cash pay. And it's just the person that's truly, or the people that are truly now suffering are us, the end user, the consumer. Josh and I obviously just literally left our benefits plan to join Liberty Health Share, which is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. I don't want to make this show about that, but it's just sad that there's so many opportunities out there that are in this system that's so broken that there's no advertisement, there's no promotion of, because obviously our government and the state and the AMA and all these other places cover it all up. But it's disgraceful. You're right. Aaron, you're totally right. You can't blame the doctors. This is the system that they're left to deal with.
They've been cuckolded. That's really what's going on here. Now that ObamaCare is essentially done, or until McCain changes his mind again, Scaramucci was just on CNN, and he basically said, and this is a quote, whether it's repeal and replace or repeal and delay, we're going to move to a freer system of healthcare. So what does that mean exactly? That means that we're going to have a freer system of healthcare. This is what's coming for the insurance companies and the medical industrial complex. So if you want to buy stock in healthcare REITs, and if you want to buy stock in medical devices, this is now the time, because that's what's going to dictate the pace. They are controlling the pace of things. I'm not making this stuff up. You can look into this. Doctors have ceded control of the healthcare system. They don't have control of the academic institutions. They have no control of the actual data that's coming in. Monsanto comes in and actually buys journals and throws out inconsistent data that's not in line with their agenda. This is going on a mass scale. I'll just tell Dr. Zakarsky from Dartmouth University, who published probably one of the most landmark studies I showed you guys on ferritin, which basically shows you that if you were to have any blood test that's a pinpoint marker for longevity, that he basically conclusively shows there's a golden range that we can get you into. And he's having a hard time just getting this data out for publication because the powers that be, or whatever it is, are not allowing the sexiness of this to get out. So it's a very interesting time.
There's no pharma solution to it, right? There's no pill you can take to fix it.
A script for a therapeutic phlebotomy.
Right.
Well, I like what Aaron just said. Go back to that. The powers that be, or whatever that is.
Who knows at this point? But look, we're not babes in the wood here. What's that line from? Now that Scaramucci's, and I got all these Goodfellas quotes coming in my head now. Don't give me that babe in the woods routine. All right, we heard the tapes.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
So then, I mean, with obviously the issues and as broken as the system is, which I know we talk about this all the time, then, it comes down to us as human beings, man, to be proactive ourselves. Right. So then hopefully we never get into that situation where it's needed. So speaking of that, then let's kind of transition into how does intermittent fasting, and I know you're getting ready to publish your official blowtorch diet there, Jay. How does that come into play for being proactive when it comes to insulin control and just overall longevity?
So, I'll start us off. Aaron can step in, and obviously Jim can talk a lot about this. So I'll just give a brief overview. We're launching the book hopefully by September 15th. Jim and I have been really, really hardcore in the last 4 or 5 weeks, revising it, making it better, adding studies. There's been a lot of data or studies that have come we're in the right place at the right time. A lot of studies have come to light just in the last 3 weeks about alternate fasting days and how amazing it is for health and longevity. And just that there's just so many amazing things that happen, like protectively to the brain, to the synaptic pathways, to neuroplasticity, all these different things in your brain that when you're not eating, it's improving. It's cleaning. It's kind of like a fumigation for free oxygen radicals that form in those pathways in the brain. So when you're fasting, it's so amazing what it does for your brain. Now, obviously, the book explains, in a very cut and dry fashion for both males and females, how to use intermittent fasting. And really, the metabolic blowtorch diet is what we call a targeted intermittent fasting diet. So it's a TIFD is what we call it. It's the acronym in the book. So it's a lot different than what most people, including Martin Burkans, who's famous for his lean gains intermittent fasting protocol, and there's other intermittent fasting protocols out there. Our system that Jim and I have devised over many, many years, and it took us a long time to perfect this, is actually 1 day of fasting, hardcore, where you literally consume nothing, not branched chain amino acids, not anything that has any caloric value, and you go as long as you possibly can before you put fork to mouth. The next day, when you train with weights, your caloric intake is above maintenance. Okay, so you never ever take your body at a level of calories where it's so low that the metabolism starts to slow down. So it's this constant, gradual up and down yo-yo process. And then obviously Jim and I have added a lot of tips, hacks, tweaks to make it even better. And one of those things is you use the weekend to fast 2 days in a row. Okay, now both of us have been using this diet. I've been using it a little bit longer than Jim. Jim's experimented with it, not as hardcore as he would like to because he's been training for his Krav Maga stuff. But I do have another person who's been doing this kind of on the DL without anybody doing it, and he has gotten to the lowest body fat of his life, and he's a veteran dieter. And we've also had some other bros at the high levels reading this, and they're all like, wow, this is pretty mind-blowing. I can't wait to try it. But I can absolutely personally attest that before I got injured in Central Park this past week bicycling, and I'm all swollen now and I'm holding on to water, I got to my lowest body fat in my life and at the heaviest weight. Okay, so this is a diet that not just men can use. It's not a hardcore bro diet. It's a diet that anybody, male or female, can use and apply to their life because it literally has days where you don't have to meal prep. You don't have to plan your meals. You literally just diet or fast as long as you possibly can. Men are longer than women. And there's, this is all explained in the book. There's epigenetic and obviously genetic factors as to why men can fast longer than women. But we have all this lined out in the book. But I'm telling you, I don't care what your body fat level is. I don't care what your experience with fasting is. I don't even care what your level of dieting is. If you do what we say in this book, you can get into the best condition of your life, bar none. I don't care about your genetics. I don't care about your insulin sensitivity. I don't care if you're a naturally fat person or a naturally muscular person. If you do what we say in this book, you can absolutely radically shred and radically alter your physique from a fat loss standpoint. And you can do it in a healthful fashion. You can reduce your bowel movements. I mean, there's just so many things that happen in this diet when you do it right. And there's also an adaptation. So it takes time. It does. It takes a couple of weeks to really get into the groove of this diet. And as Jim always says, you have to set your training. Obviously we believe in Forge training around this. We build a Forge training program or a couple programs around this diet. But there's always an adaptation phase for everybody individually. But this diet works, man. That's all I can say. It's an awesome diet. I can't wait to bring it to the public. I mean, Josh, you know about it because you've had, verbally done it for the last couple of years. And then some of the other people in the inner circle of all of our stuff have been using it and tweaking it. But what Jim and I have come up with in the last month is really actually different than what we've used in the last couple of years. You want to add it? Okay.
Yeah, hold on, Jay, real quick. Can you move your head over so we can see the artwork of the book? So Larry asked, what's the name of the book? So if you look right there in the center of the Metabolic Blowtorch Diet, where you've got Jim and Jay and Monica there with the flames, that's going to be it. And I believe for at least a little while, we're going to give away the book for free. You'll just have to cover shipping. Like Jay said,
we're going to do it the whole time.
Yeah,
we'll do it the whole time. It'll always be that way. I mean, it's not going to be, a 200-page book like the Advanced Strategies edition or anything like that. It'll probably be, Valerie's working on it right now. I think it's 60 pages right now as a Word document, but once formatted with images and charts and graphs and all the things to make it very simplistic and easy to follow. Like one of the things that Jim and I wanted to do is we want to put caricatures of various body types. So like if you're a female that's like, endomorphic, you're naturally fat bodied, you have like a pear shape. We want to have like a picture of you in the book and say, if this is you, do this. Here's your diet. Here's your calculations. Here's how much protein you should eat. So we want to dummy proof it and simplify it as much as possible so that you literally can just open it up, flip to the picture, flip to the conversion, figure out what you need to eat on your training days. And then, you're not eating much on your fasting days and just go from there. Good, Jim.
Well, what can I add to that? This is something that we've been working on a long time. And when we started doing, these events where we had to be in shape, it was kind of an accumulation of our total experience over the years and all the tricks, like the stuff that we've picked up recently too, like nicotine, and then obviously metformin and how to really play or use metformin to our fullest advantage. And that's during a fasted time, so there's a lot of great information. I don't think there's anything out there that incorporates all these things that we've put together in a strategy. And, we've been testing it. It's hard for me to follow the protocol because I do some type of training almost every day, but, it's been great. I'm excited to have people try it. We've put a lot of work into it. I think it's a really cool product.
It's really interesting, the science behind it and how this kind of flies in the face of almost everything you ever hear about fat loss, because there's been this bastardization of caloric restriction that's memed itself throughout, society where they do they show you the rat studies where you have to whittle away from maximum lifespan. But you can actually, instead of extending maximum lifespan, you can actually extend your average lifespan. The guy was a biogerontologist by the name of Dr. Longo, I think, from UC Davis. And he did these studies with the rats. I don't know if they had human trials, but the specific diets, just like you're describing, where it's a form of caloric restriction, but it's just pure extended periods of time fasting, as long as it's a minimum of 5 days per month, and you consume the normal amount the rest of the time, activates the anti-aging genes and the proteins and enzymes needed to extend the average lifespan, but trigger enough to hit the fat reserves. So there's definitely a lot to this in the animal studies. I think they call it the fast mimicking diet because it emulates the caloric restriction without. Now here's a very important part and why people should do things like this as opposed to starving themselves or caloric restriction over time. Because when you do something like this and you're hitting that 5-day mark, you do have a dip in the insulin and IGF levels. So you will have a slight dip that actually hits and causes the fat reserves to be depleted. But if you're not calorically restricting yourself to the point where your immune system gets compromised, which is huge. So guys, you don't overtrain and hurt yourself. So it becomes that 5-day mark once a week is optimal.
Yeah, it's a great point. Like one of the things that Jim and I have really found recently with this 2 day in a row And what I mean by that, I'll just explain it. And again, this is all extremely laid out in the book. It's a monkey can understand this. This is not, we're not going into like super techno, esoteric jargon about dieting. I mean, the science is in there. We probably have, I think, 85 studies linking in there, all very new, very relevant. And like I said, there's been a lot of really awesome research that's come out about fasting recently. But there's something about the body that when you fast for a couple of days, and again, I don't mean like 2 days straight. I mean like you go 20, 21 hours, 2 days in a row, you eat, a limited number of carbohydrates, a limited number of protein and fats on the days that you're in your feeding windows. The next day, because of AMP, and again, I'm not going to go esoteric, but the AMP and the thyroid upregulation, your body can handle a lot more calories. So in addition to training intensely on those days, you're going to get a window, it's technically like an anabolic window where your body can restore glycogen at an accelerated rate and handle more calories. Now what happens too is when you're giving your body more calories and training intensely, you're not going to lose any muscle, and you're definitely going to keep your metabolism revving at full throttle. And that's the real beauty of this diet. Like you could go a couple days with like very minimal calories. And by the way, you really start losing body fat for women like between the hours of 12 and 15 that you're fasting, and for men between 16, 20, 21, 22 hours. I mean, that's that's when the blowtorch kicks in. But it's crazy because the next day or the day after, whenever you're eating again, your metabolism keeps humming along, and you can eat more carbohydrates for sure, and obviously overconsume relative to your maintenance calories that day. Some people say, that have been playing around with this, that they're just kind of mind blown that on the days that they overeat, they actually seem to get leaner. And that's because, again, the body is upregulating these, the metabolic machinery and the hormonal systems to increase caloric rate and caloric burn. So like I said, I've been playing around with this for 6 weeks now. Been hardcore doing the 2-day fasts on the weekends. Very, holding close to the vest on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which are my normal fast days because I've been training on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I've just had amazing, amazing success. I mean, I took a picture at the pool when I was in New York on Saturday that Monica took with my buddy Tony. And I was just like, they were like, dude, what the hell? You have zero body fat, and I just literally the day before on Friday, I had probably eaten like 500 or 600 grams of carbs, So anyway, this diet is something else. I really can't wait to bring it to the public's attention and get it out there. Josh, you're right. We're going to give it away for free forever. We want as many people to understand how to use this diet as possible. Jim and I are working on the FAQ right now. If there's somebody who's read the diet, because I did give it out to a bunch of people to beta test it, we're soliciting questions right now for the frequently asked questions section. So if you have questions about it, please email me at j@trtrevolution.com so that we can consider whether or not we want to put those questions in the back of the book.
Yeah, a quick question I have, or actually more so Amanda had, because we both read it and we're actually just switch our training regimen. So we're training Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So we're intermittent fasting Wednesdays, Saturday, Sunday. But there's a shorter window for women compared to men. Like women don't want to fast the 22 hours like I might fast. I mean, why is the difference? Why does that exist?
So it's theoretical. We don't really have a real reason. And by the way, there's always outliers. There are definitely women that I have spoken to that can, but by and large, the majority of women cannot fast longer than 15 hours. And the reasons are pretty much epigenetic. Women have always been, quote unquote, the nurturers, the men and the hunter-gatherers. Men have more stable blood sugar. So a man, an equal man and equal woman from a physical health standpoint or fitness standpoint, by and large, on a scale of say 15 to 20 hours, a woman's blood sugar will destabilize sooner than a man's will. So a man can just seemingly, as you know, Josh, a man can seemingly fast longer and not have any problems. Whereas you look at Monica or you look at Amanda, you get them to 15 or 16 hours without food and they'll start shaking.
Yeah.
Or they'll start saying, hey, I need to eat something. Now, again, not everybody's the same, but the majority of women, that's what that is. And so that's why we've made the recommendations that, 15 hours should be more than enough for a woman. But again, we say this in the book, if you can go longer, and you don't feel unstable, blood sugar issues, you feel clammy, you're like you're going to fall over or anything like that, just keep doing it. Because as Jim always say, when you're hungry, your body is stripping body fat off you.
Yep. Love it. All right. So we had a question from Mark. There's a couple of them here, so I'm just going to read it all together. So Mark's question is, the huge fad now is if you were a really fit female, but have a little fat on your thighs, a recommendation is keto. Now, True-Keto is in fasting for 1 to 2 days with nothing, then you get on it. Thoughts on True-Keto? And then he follows that up with the reason they are doing keto is that they say sugar cravings go away. What are your overall thoughts on that?
Show me the bodies. I want to see the proof of all this happening, because it just doesn't exist. Just like all the guys who are going to put muscle on in keto, and all the people who are going to do all these amazing things and body transformations in ketogenesis. It's just not there. Obviously if you go on a ketogenic diet and you follow it and you get into keto adapted state, and you're regimented and you're working out, you should have some type of results, but it's not you're not going to magically melt body fat off and all this other stuff. Now, health wise, there's a variety of reasons to do it. There are some clinical reasons to do it, but just that situation that you described, a girl has a hard time stripping the last part of her fat, the stubborn fat off, going in a ketogenic diet, and then it magically happens. Show me the bodies. I haven't seen the proof.
Most people that make claims about ketogenic diets, and we talk a little bit about this in the blowtorch diet. We don't get into the deep biologics or anything, but what happens, and this happens in the metabolic blowtorch diet when you're in the long hours of the fast, is that the body senses a super low insulin signal, and then the body will produce in kind of a fight or flight stress reaction catecholamines. And catecholamines are essentially adrenaline that is released, that is in the form of I forget what they are, but they will attack stubborn fat. Okay, because like adrenaline or noradrenaline, it releases the alpha B2 receptor fat, the stubborn body fat, in specific areas that people are prone to store stubborn body fat, because it increases blood flow to those areas. So you will see a lot of stubborn body fat loss in the metabolic blowtorch diet in the periods when you're on your longest point of fasting, especially like in a second day if you do 2 days back to back of fasting. And honestly, again, we write about this pretty heavily in the book, but that to me is, in my experience, the best stubborn fat reducing protocol that you can do, other than any other drugs, including albuterol or yohambine HCl or any of those other things which attack the specific stubborn body fat receptor sensitivity sites. But yeah, the increase of catecholamines from longer hours of fasting. Now, obviously, people that do ketogenic diets, who fast in those ketogenic diets, will also have a catecholamine release. But Jim's right. The majority of people that do ketogenic diets, they lose water, okay, and their weight loss is like, oh my God, all this water is gone from me over 3 days because I've eaten no carbohydrates, and so it must be working. But when they really start doing body composition analyses, the fat loss, the proof is in the pudding. The fat loss is going to come from permanent.
There's nobody eating meat and vegetables switching to a true keto diet that's amazed.
Exactly.
That ain't happening.
Exactly.
It's usually the fat guy that goes on a keto diet and shit works, or it's somebody that has a clinical condition that goes in the ketogenesis, and it obviously it helps, especially just like an insulin related issue. But there's not a lot of people out there who are in great to semi-decent shape already, and then switch over and all this magic happens. They get to 4% body fat. And the other thing that happens a lot too is people get in, they get into this ketogenic kick, and if you're going to lose body fat, you still have to maintain your calories. It's not like you can eat whatever you want. I'm going to have a tub of pork rinds and cheese dip 18 times a day. Yeah. So anyway, that's my.
No, it's true. There's like some absurdity that people believe that thermodynamics doesn't apply when you're in ketosis, that you can eat an unlimited amount of fat and protein, or an unlimited amount of fat and normal protein. It's a bunch of nonsense. You still can't eat 10,000 calories a day if you're a 135-pound woman that's 30% body fat. Give me a break, you know?
Yeah. So when it comes to intermittent fasting, dude, what's going on in the mind? Because like, holy crap, dude, like whenever I have a big project going on, I love to fast. Because you would think it'd be the opposite, where if you didn't have those calories feeding the brain, you wouldn't be able to focus. But the opposite is true. Like, I'm more laser focused on a long-term fast, especially if I'm take some black coffee with some EMF on a long fast, dude. It's just like, boom, I'm more laser focused than at any other time. What's going on mentally that allows that to happen?
So Aaron, you can talk about this, but let me just say real quick. We talk about this in the book, but there's a chemical. It's called brain-derived neuropeptide factor, and it's essentially a chemical that's released in the brain at a certain hour after fasting. That is the chemical that is required for the neuroprotective aspects of the brain. All, like I said, the fumigation that's going on in synaptic pathways. That chemical is also responsible for what we perceive as flow state. When a person like Josh or myself or somebody like that, who's a creative content producer, all of a sudden just taps into that zone where everything is like, wow, I'm just like in the golden moment where I can just drop knowledge.
It's like you're taking the limitless pill, dude. You're just bam.
It's incredible. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, Aaron. I don't want to cut you off, but like yesterday, I fasted 23 and a half hours because again, I had a concussion, and I'm just like I want to make sure I'm good and everything before I travel again. And I swear to God, at like 21 hours yesterday, Josh, I felt like, it was like, I felt like Bradley Cooper and Limitless did. Yep. Like I just thought, like, Monica, I got to get home and I got to write, because we were at Costco. Get me home right now. I got to write right now.
I can't waste this window.
Go ahead, Aaron. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, the BDNF is a remarkable compound because what it's really doing is it's mimicking the effects of physical exercise without actual physical exercise. So, you'll see during physical exercise this threefold increase of BDNF, and it's encouraging. All it's doing is just encouraging the growth and the differentiation of new synapses in certain key areas. So you have, like, you're in the zone, right? Flow state. So you're going to have your forebrain, which is going to be very dopaminergic, and then you're going to have your hippocampus activated with new neurons and synapses that are just lighting up, and these connections are going back and forth, and then your memory is triggered too, and then it'll hit your cortex, and then the connection to your mind and body will start to really. You'll actually probably notice that your retina and your eyes will probably dilate a bit. Also, your saliva will start to change. Your urine output. It's an amazing process, and it's very neuroprotective. The neurotrophins are an amazing class of receptors. I actually have to head out to a flight though, you guys.
All right, my man.
But cool, bro. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for coming on.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, well, Josh, let's stay there for a second because Jim and I definitely spent a lot of time talking about BDNF in the book. And I really think that there's something about this, like, everyone who fasts really needs to read about BDNF. If that means read about, go on Wikipedia, Google it. But that's exactly what is allowing for flow state. So if you can create an environment, you're an entrepreneur, you're a busy cat, you really are, all about creating amazing content in your life. You really want to get this chemical, peaked in your brain as often as you can. And that's the most amazing part. This is not something like with a serotonin reuptake inhibitor or a modafinil or EMF or Adderall or any of that stuff. Like, this is something that you can create naturally, and there's no receptor attenuation, which means that you're not going to overproduce BDNF. Like, the brain is not going to overproduce BDNF. It's going to produce it when it's capable of producing it. So I think the fasted state is something that people should aspire to do at least 2 or 3 times a week. I really do.
So Adam asked, and I don't know if he meant because he asked the question when we were talking about the keto comment, or if this is for metabolic blowtorch diet. But he asked, is this just for stubborn fat loss areas?
No.
It can be used for anything. I mean, we're working it out to adjust with the training system to get maximal benefits from both. But it's not just for stubborn fat loss. I mean, this could kickstart your diet. This is an easy way to diet. If you're not the type of person that wants to eat 5 meals a day of meat and veggies, it's something different. Obviously, we've experimented at the lower body fat levels and had varied success with. Overall, very successful. But we've had clients that we've done this with, that wanted to go on vacation and they gave us 10 weeks. So it's applicable to anyone that wants to do it. We're coming up with different training modalities to coincide with it and trying to work that out. But yeah, it's not just for, one type of fat loss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I would say too, to speak about gyms for training modalities, Jim has a new variant, which we can talk about in a second here. We'll see go over to the Forge training program, but Jim's created a new variant of 4 days on Forge where you hit the body part twice. And I haven't had a chance to use it because I've been only for 3 days, which is like the maximum fat loss, which is, you train 3 days a week and you fast 4. But the 4-day variant, which would only be, which is kind of what you're doing now, you and Amanda are doing now, Josh, where you guys are only fasting 3 days, would be more of like not a maximum fat loss, but a maximum muscle preservation and minimal fat loss, or excuse me, almost no fat deposition gain. So you could, essentially eat more. So, and then there's one other thing I wanted to add, that Jim and I are going to do an experiment where we're going to create a variant of this diet where we're going to call it the anabolic blowtorch diet. And that's going to be like you get to your lowest body fat level and then you do a DEXA scan, and then we can, tweak some things in this diet where you're only fasting on minimal days and you're eating like maximum calories on your training days. But that's something, for later down the road. But this diet really can be applied to many different areas of your life depending on what your goal is.
Yep. Love it. So then Sam asked, he's like, I know you guys have covered this before, but what is the minimum time frame for cardio benefits, for maximum benefits? He's 53 years old, low body fat. He's, typically hitting it for like 23 to 25 minutes, along with his resistance training and eating very clean. I think I saw another post in here that he's just wrapping up a 23-hour long fast. And again, I know that we've covered this before, but what would you say to that?
I mean, typically, there's varying data, but almost everybody agrees across the board that 20 minutes 3 times a week is enough to, be cardioprotective or cardio-friendly, health friendly. I like to pump it up just a little bit over that, but, that's because of my own personal needs and body fat maintenance. But, 20 minutes 3 times a week at least. If you can do 4 or, stretch it to 30 or 40 minutes, that's great too. But, yeah, I would say that's a minimum.
Yeah, I think it comes down to how much body fat you have to luse. Okay.
If he's specifically just for, if he's specifically just for cardio health, right?
Right. Yeah. But if you got, exactly. But I mean, if you got a lot of body fat to lose,
sure.
The health aside, then, the more cardio you can do, not compensating with your resistance training and your nutritional needs, the better off you are. And another thing I learned too, and this is, Jim and I have learned this after looking at literally thousands of people's labs. If you have high triglycerides in your blood, you're not doing enough cardio. Okay, that is across the board, universal. I've seen this now with so many people. Jim and I, when we first started like saying this like 4 or 5 years ago to clients, we were kind of like, well, this is kind of our personal opinion. And, guys were like, well, do you guys have any data? And Jim would always go down the whole path of like, well, have you ever seen like super, high level endurance athletes and like look at EPO and like look at their hematocrit and look at all these different things and stuff like that. They have like incredibly low levels. So the thing with triglycerides is if you're not doing enough cardiovascular exercise, you're going to have very viscous blood fats, which is essentially the measurement of triglycerides in the blood. So if you've got high triglycerides and you're skinny fat, you need to do more cardio. That's going to drop your triglyceride levels down pretty quickly. Now, obviously, you do have to improve your diet. You have to have live an insulin-controlled life. But more cardio when you have higher triglycerides is necessary for sure.
Yep. Love it. So, all right. So we got a couple of our listeners on here that are watching that are 100 pounds overweight. So when it comes to like the metabolic blowtorch diet, I mean, what would you recommend for that? I mean, because these guys wouldn't necessarily probably want to follow like Amanda and I will fast intermittent fasting for 3 days. Would they want to do it 5 days, 7 days a week? Is there a limit to that?
Yeah, so it's a great question. That's going to be an FAQ question. There's something along the line. I have a lot of body fat to lose. How do I start? The truth is like you're going to start with what you can tolerate. Okay, if you're someone who is morbidly obese, don't live an insulin controlled life, the first step is like to gradually increase your length of time without eating. Okay, because remember, as Jim has said a million times on this show, if you're not living an insulin controlled life, it's likelihood that your gut biome sucks. You probably got candida in your gut. You probably got God knows what, yeast organisms that have been eating and devouring the processed, carbohydrates and GMO food that you've been eating. So you're not going to literally be able to go that long initially without your body screaming, feed me. And, it can cause metabolic, issues, not sickness, but like literally you feeling like I got to eat. So gradual, you start off gradual. If you're a woman, that means you probably do at least 10 hours, 8 to 10 hours. If you're a dude, you should be doing at least 12 to 14 hours. And then as you get used to this, again, we would obviously highly recommend you get a prescription for metformin or buy metformin over the counter if you can't find a prescription. But as you get more and more used to this, you extend the length of your fast windows. And Josh, you know this. Jim, you know this. I mean, we've all done this. I mean, your body does start to adapt to fasting. It becomes a lot easier to fast. You can literally go as a man easily 20 plus hours and not even get hungry. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I would just kind of echo what Jay said there. If you're 100 pounds overweight and you're starting, the path of losing that, picking up this book and following it to the T is probably going to be very difficult. So I would start with baby steps, man. We're talking meat and vegetables, a little bit of fruit, healthy fats. Start to cut off the time that you stop eating at night somewhere, 6, 7, 8, whatever your lifestyle is. Start playing with that fasted window a little bit. Stop eating carbohydrates or stop eating calories after 7 o'clock at night. And then don't eat again until you wake up. I mean, these are just little baby steps that you can start to incorporate, making better food choices here and there. And that's the best way I would recommend starting, especially if you're something like, 100 pounds overweight. Just start making smarter choices and then, gradually get into it. Going down and picking up this book and then jumping into it is going to be difficult on a compliance and probably a physical and mental standpoint. So.
Yeah. One of the cool thing, you guys, again, like Jay said earlier, because it's, we want to have big impact. This amazing book is going to be offered free to you guys. So it'd be about 6 weeks. It'll be out and be offered for free for you guys. So Adam asks, should I only fast on non-training days?
Yes.
Yes. 100%.
So even if you train like in the evening and you fasted, in the morning, but then you had some calories pre-imposed. My body did not like that.
But wait a minute, but there is a caveat because I know Josh does this and, Daniel, I just blew Daniel's cover, but Daniel's been doing this. So if you're one of those people that trains at 8 o'clock at night, okay, and you want to fast during the day, and these are things that we'll do as variants in the book that will give people options and stuff like that. Because again, this is like you adapt this to your lifestyle. It's very adaptable. Then you would definitely break your fast at least an hour to 90 minutes before you eat, because especially if you fasted the day before, right? Right. So let's think about this for a second. Let's just think of a normal day. So let's say a person's training on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and they're training at 8 o'clock at night on those nights. So on the Wednesday that they train, they just fasted, let's say they fasted 22 hours on Tuesday, and then they go into the next day and they just fasted again another 16 hours before they train at night. They definitely have to get some glucose in the blood so that they have some form of stored glycogen to train, to rely on. Otherwise, their training is going to be horseshit. They're going to get injured. I don't want to hear all this nonsense. Martin Burkhan says, I train fasted and I don't get hurt and I rely on noradrenaline and blah, 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 blah. You've got to have glycogen in the muscles before you train. As Jim always has said forever, since I've known him for 20 years, you're setting yourself up for fucking disaster training without muscle glycogen. You are going to injure yourself. I don't care what drugs you're on. If you're enhanced or not, you're going to hurt yourself over time. You have to have a stored form of glycogen to train off of. There's just no excuse. Unless you're like a pussy. If you don't train intensely, no, but really, if you don't train intensely, and a lot of people, as you know, because we talk about this all the time, a lot of people have no fucking idea how to train. They train like literally. They have no idea how to train. So if you're going into the gym and you don't even know how to train intensely, and you're like, well, I train fasted. Well, yeah, because you don't even have any idea how to train. You're not actually hitting the aerobic
there's one exception, Jay. I mean, we're talking about there could be different levels of fasting. When people say they train fasted, I could wake up in the morning. Yeah, I could wake up in the morning and train first thing in the morning, but I still have glycogen. I'm not depleted, right? I haven't done this, 36 hours of fasting in the last 48 hours. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be individual.
But does that make sense, Josh? Like if you fasted the day before all day and then you literally, ate for 3 hours that night and then fasted again like 16 hours, if you're training right there, you're definitely going to hurt yourself over time. It's tough.
Yep.
It's just there's not enough blood glucose.
Yep. Love it. So then Mark has a comment and then a question. So he said, get Jay and Jim to coach you. I went from 44% body fat to I'm now between 9 to 11% thanks to them. I have stayed at that for through 2 torn rotator cuffs and humerus. They are spot on with everything. So then his question, though, is I love the EMF product. Thanks so much for the support, dude. Truly appreciate that. But my issue with fasting is if I'm fasting for 23 hours, but I'm having a meeting with a billionaire, I need to be on my game. So can I use EMF to stay sharp? No, I don't have the luxury with my schedule to fast and just chill, essentially. So I can't be lethargic. What would you say to that?
Well, thanks, Mark. I appreciate all the kind words, man. And you're a warrior, dude. It's not anything that we did. It's your desire that made you successful in losing all that weight. But thank you anyway. Like Jay and Josh said, when you're in a fasted state, you become more cognitive sharp. I mean, something happens to you, especially if you add something like black coffee or you take the EMF in that fasted state. It's amazing, man. I don't go to work that way because of my schedule. I usually work and then I go train. But on the days that I've done that and I'm in that zone, stuff on the computer, speaking, all that is at a different level. So I would encourage you to experiment and try to play with that and get in that zone. EMF, of course, makes everything better. But when you get to that state and things start happening, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand his question. He said he fasts 23 hours and then he's talking about the next morning he has to be on top of his game with
or just during a fast where he has to meet with a high-level client, be on his game. He doesn't.
Listen, he's not fasting. If there's no way that's happening if he's fasting. He's not fasting. Okay, that's actually a good point. Let's bring that up because as you and I know, there's some very high-level people in the industry that talk about fasting and they say they can take branched-chain amino acids during fasting. That is complete horseshit. Okay.
Well, you can, but you're not fasting anymore.
Exactly. You're not fasting as soon as you ingest a single calorie. As soon as anything elicits an insulin response, you don't fast anymore. It's over. So all those metabolic effects that you're supposed to elicit from fasting, they go away as soon as you start fasting.
Well, wait, what if you ingest fat? That doesn't elicit an insulin response.
Yeah.
True.
If you take in a calorie, you're not fasted anymore.
Any calories is not fasted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when we're fasting, it's literally water and some black coffee, and that's it, right?
Exactly.
And then, to Mark's point, and Jay brought this up earlier too, I mean, ease into it, right? I mean, your first attempt of doing a 23-hour fast when your body's not adapted to it, it may take a while. Like I know for me, it took me probably about 3 weeks of getting used to it and kind of fighting through those hungers before I started to feel amazing on it. So it does take a little time if you're not used to it, but give it that time. So maybe in the beginning, try to fast on those non-big appointment days until your body gets to that point. But it doesn't take long. I mean, 2 or 3 weeks of doing it, dude, like you're on your game.
And there is some research. Hopefully I can put this in the book, but I've read some stuff recently. The darker you are, so if you're black or Hispanic or you just have darker complected skin, your progenitor origin is from closer to the equatorial plane. The more strictly adapted you are, so you actually have, what the hell was that? You actually have better, what kind of ringtone is that?
It's from Ballers, man. Come on.
Shit.
You have actually better insulin sensitivity the darker complected you are. Again, this isn't everybody. There's outliers always. Biochemical individuality is the ultimate determinant. But like with Monica, her mom is Mexican from way down south, and she is very she's incredible processing sugar, very insulin sensitive naturally. But those folks just can't fast as long. If you're from like Northern European ancestry like me, like I'm straight, white bread, Neanderthal, German, Norwegian, Dutch, Scottish, Irish, Jim's, that too. We can adapt, and Josh, you too, we can adapt a lot easier to going without food. And again, I think a lot of that has to do with genetic and epigenetic factors. We lived on the tundra. We went times where we had no food. We had to rely on our lives.
Didn't, but
yeah, not we, but our parents, right? But yeah, I mean, everybody's different, and as you said, Josh, experimentation is key.
Yep. So a few other questions here. Raymond again asked the name of the book. So it's Metabolic Blowtorch Diet, which you guys will be emailing it, and you guys won't be able to not see it. I can promise you that.
It will be pinned. It will be pinned.
So then there's a really good question. If you're bulking, like trying to add muscle, would you still fast?
Yes. Yes.
Jay would, but
I mean, well, hold on. Let me just say this. Like, if you're training to be an Olympia bodybuilder, of course not. But if you're just a regular Joe and you're trying to gain muscle, the benefits of fasting are neuroprotective. To me, number one is neuroprotective. You're not trying to lose body fat. You're trying to improve your health and your longevity, and you're trying to keep your peak mental capacity and flow and energy maximization and all that stuff. So throwing in a day where you went like 14 hours of not eating, during a week when you're, over consuming food to gain muscle. And this is applied to like skinny fat dudes and even skinny fat women, okay, who are like poor health. But I see a lot of quote unquote hard gainers, skinny fat type guys who, always claim they don't eat enough food and they're trying to gain muscle. I still think, eating, 18, 19 calories per pound on your training days and throwing in a couple of days, where you're not, you don't need to do cardio, but just where you're not, eating for 13 or 14 hours or even 12 hours is good for the neuroprotective.
Well, let me define what bulking means to me. When somebody says, "Hey, I'm going to bulk up," that means you're going to put on a little bit of muscle and get fat.
Yeah, super fat.
So, then what are you going to do? You got to diet your ass off to get the fat off again, and you're going to lose some of that muscle. And so, I don't traditionally like to go by the terms, I'm bulking or I'm cutting. That's the only two ways I live. I prefer to stay at a consistent body fat, somewhere under 10 to 12% if you're, going for it, and stay within that zone. So you could call it lean bulking. I don't know what term you want to call it, but, the traditional bulking where I'm going to put on body fat and a little bit of muscle, and then I'm going to lose body fat and lose some of the muscle I gained doesn't make any sense to me. So, and if you go by those terms, then, this fasting isn't going to help you because, you don't really care about body fat levels. But kind of what Jay laid out, if you're fasting 1 or 2 days and then, you're maintaining a 10 to 12% body fat and you're actively gaining and getting stronger, that's kind of what we'd be looking for. And you can probably do it fasting 1 or 2 days a week.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like version 2, the anabolic blowtorch diet, will hit much deeper on that. So,
sure.
Then Adam says, and I love this comment, of course, being a co-owner with Jim and Jay on the product, but Adam says, I can't even count how many bottles of EMF I bought. I take 5 every morning, and my business is up 139% this year because I'm hyper-focused at the office. That's freaking badass, dude.
Thank you, dude.
So then Dennis says, like you talked about, aminos will break a fast. So then he follows up saying, well, creatine, glutamine, beta-alanine, or are there any other supplements, because we talk a lot about them, taking magnesium and all this other stuff. Will any of those other things break a fast?
Yeah. Well, magnesium is a mineral. I don't know if it has a caloric intake, but a caloric count. But all the amino acids will. Creatine will. It's made of 3 amino acids. Glutamine's a single amino acid. And I really hate to bring this up, but even technically taking EMF capsules, because there's herbs in it, and those herbs are going to have a calorie count, is technically breaking the fast. Anything that, if you take a capsule, the gelatin in it will have a caloric count. If you take anything except for water, you're breaking the fast. And technically, according to some scientists and, Ronico Patrick and those people, if you drink a coffee, it breaks some of the fasting that you're doing because your body is responding by, producing adrenaline and things that it wouldn't have been doing in a fasted on water state. So, yeah, dude.
But we do disclaim that in the metabolic blowtorch diet that all of those supplements or ergogens can do that. But as Jim just said, the key is if you're using something that can exacerbate catecholamine formation, which will burn skinny fat or mobilize, stubborn fat, which is what is skinny fat essentially, then it's okay ultimately in the long run because it's kind of an equalizer. But Jim's right. But we do disclaim all that in the book. And honestly, the truth is, when you're a really hardcore faster and you're in those long windows where you have BDNF, you're going to chew gum, you're going to drink a ton of water. I'm kind of answering one of the FAQ questions.
That's a good point too, gum, right? I mean, that has a calorie.
Gum elicits an insulin response. But again, these are so infinitesimal or minimal.
Yeah, and again, sorry, dude. The answer to that is, during our testing in those fasted states where we're, for lack of a better term, you're high from being fasted and all those chemicals are going in your body, taking EMF or drinking black coffee, even chewing gum hasn't taken us out of that state, which tells me it's not enough of a caloric count to do so. But if you're swigging 5 grams of an amino, a single amino or a branched chain amino acid product with flavoring and, a caloric count on its own, it doesn't have to be sugar, then it's going to take you out of that. So
no, it doesn't work. And honestly, when I first tried to do this, I was experimenting with my own variant of this, and I wrote a white paper, for one of my websites a long time ago, and I had thousands of people download it. I fucked it up because I was recommending SciTech or Extend or whatever that was, branched chain amino acid drink. I think it was Purple Crush or something like that. It was an awesome, tasted amazing. It said it had 3 calories or 4 calories, but that's wrong. And there's tons of scientists, I won't mention names, Jim knows who they are, that say that taking branched chain amino acids when you're dieting, fasting are great, and it's just complete BS. It goes against all the laws of science. It's bogus, and you can't do it. It's just you're breaking your fast.
Does coffee with butter in it? That's fasting, right?
Yeah. Throw a bunch of MCT oils in there and a couple tablespoons of butter.
Got a stick of butter, some MCT oils, and 2 Madonna pills. I'm fasting.
You microwave macadamias and you put that in your coffee.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up that, you can continue the fast with EMF and black coffee and stay in that fasted state, because I was going to have Troy edit that part out of the podcast before we released it, because I don't want our EMF sales going down.
But that's true, right? We try to identify those factors, and that was that's the beta test for us. When we were in that state, taking EMF, taking a stimulant like coffee didn't affect it. It actually enhanced it. And so, in experimenting with other things, taking in, aminos or other stuff we may disclose in the other book, that takes you out of that state and you feel it. It's night and day. So, that was stuff.
Yeah. And the other benefit to fasting, a lot of people don't talk about, and I know that a lot of this is new science coming out, but they're saying the gut biome is the future to health, and it resets the gut biome and a lot of stuff that we may not know yet, right? But fasting is so amazing on the gut itself. So there's just, there's probably so many benefits that we just aren't even aware of yet.
If you think about like this, and Russ is watching us, and Russ is such an awesome supporter. Russ, we love you, brother. Thank you so much for all you do. He always talks about the 3 stages. He talks about the hormonal optimization, the gut biome, and insulin controlled living. If you take metformin, you fast, you optimize your hormones with maybe a thyroid bump and obviously testosterone. Dude, that's it, man. You've got all the pyramid, all the bases of the pyramid completely covered. Now you just need a progressive position, an error, checked to just continue the path, and you are literally on the path to wellness. There's nothing else that you can do other than obviously eat clean and practice insulin control. That's better than that. It's
and take a world-class nootropic.
Yep.
And take EMF. EMF. And by the way, no, I won't say.
So then Adam asks, how can I get you guys to take a look at my blood work? And real quick, Adam, if you're not already, make sure to hook up with Check, dude. So check mybloodwork.com. So when Jim and Jay are talking about all these tests that they do on themselves, we're all clients of Aaron, Dr. Grossman, who was on here earlier. We get all our blood work ran through him, and we really look to him for that element of it. So, but is that something that you guys, I know with your one-on-one coaching clients, that might be something that you guys do. But if somebody did want you to analyze that.
Just tell Aaron, not Aaron, but Adam to email it to me. Just j@trtrevolution.com. I'll look it over for him. Give you a freebie and look at it if there's any kind of risk factors and stuff like that. I mean, I got guys sending me their blood work all the time. I mean, it's, we're busy people in our lives, and it's hard to give everybody individual attention. But if you watch the show and you're a supporter of us, we'll help you out, bro. Just email it to me.
So then Raymond says, should I be taking EMF being just starting out really on the weight loss journey? This was the gentleman that's 100 pounds overweight. And then where can I find it? So absolutely, right? It'll help you with those fasts. It'll help you stay more focused. It'll help you with your performance. It'll help you cut out some of those cravings. I mean, it does so many amazing things. You can find it optimizedlifenutrition.com is our website there. And that's a product that, Jim actually came up with a formulation, but that we're all partners in on. I don't know if you guys have anything that you want to add on that. If somebody that's just starting to optimize their health and their diet, if they should be taking EMF.
It does have a
minimal dose, right? I would just say,
I would start out slow, but it has a cognitive benefit. It has a mood benefit that lasts, for me, after I'm done with the stimulant part of it. The stimulant part of it, the teacrine, is very gentle. It's not going to raise your heart rate, but you definitely become hyper-focused. It does help curb your hunger. I mean, literally, it does everything that you want it to do. I hate to say, it's like I'm a salesman now. It'll do everything, but it really does, man. I took it yesterday, full dose yesterday, and I had a really long day with a couple high-level meetings. It's fantastic, man. I love it. Start low. The full dose came out a little bit stronger than we expected. The full dose is really, for most people, it's a little much. I recommend taking it with caffeine, because the caffeine, if you add caffeine, that and our stimulant, the teacrine, works synergistically. And so I do 200 milligrams of caffeine in a coffee with 5, depending on the day, a full 5 cap serving. Starting out, I would do, if you're drinking coffee or if you're taking caffeine, I would do your normal dosage of caffeine and probably start to the 3 capsule range and see how you feel. For me, it lasts probably, depending on how much I take. If I take a full dose, it lasts me a good 5 hours or so. When I start to notice it come down a little bit, I'll add another half or full, depending on the day, another 100 or 200 milligrams of caffeine, and it seems to kick it back in. And, it takes me a full 8-9 hours throughout the day at a high level. So awesome. In short, yeah.
All right. So two questions from Adam. I'll just ask them both at the same time, and then you guys can hit on these. So I was told to take metformin at night. And I'm out of my fasted state by then. I was told this would make me tired throughout the day. Is this accurate? Maybe let's just hit on that, and then, because his next question is about testosterone.
Will taking metformin at night make you tired during the day?
Well, no, I think he's afraid to take it during the day because it'll make him tired. So he only takes it at night.
No, man. Well,
it's nonsense. The only thing that would make you tired is if you're eating a diet too high in carbohydrates and you're releasing too much. You're increasing serotonin release, or even eating like a bunch of turkey or something. But no, dude, that's the only nonsense.
I mean, the only thing that I could figure too is we always recommend if you eat it with carbohydrates, it's going to block some of the carbohydrates that are being ingested. And so possibly if you're very carbohydrate reliant on energy, that's the only thing I can think of. But no, there's no mechanism for it to make you tired.
Yeah. Well, and then just be cognizant of your training schedule too, right? Like I don't take it early in the morning because I train at 8 a.m. So I'll take, my first dose at like noon, which is 3 or 4 hours after my pre and post workout meal. And then I'll take it before bed. then Adam says, okay, so if my natural free testosterone is at 700, and I hear Josh say that he doesn't feel right until he's at around 1,000, do you think trying testosterone out to see how I feel at a higher level, still within the normal to high range, is okay?
Okay, hold on. He's confused. His free testosterone is different than his total testosterone.
He means his total.
Yeah, he means his total at 700. Yeah. So this is a great question. It deserves a good answer, and I'll let Jim speak to. But at 700, you're not going to get a physician who's a legitimate physician to prescribe you testosterone. Okay, it's too high of a level from a measurement numbers. Now, remember, we always say that measurement numbers are secondary to symptomology. Okay, so an average physician, if they're doing this right, a progressive physician, I shouldn't say an average, but a progressive physician, they're still going to weigh your symptomology over your blood levels. But a 700 blood level is too high to prescribe someone testosterone. The first course of action would be to clean up your diet, lower your estrogen from your diet. Maybe take some estrogen lowering compounds. You can eat a lot of broccoli or cruciferous vegetables. There's a lot of things you can do naturally, but you're still too high to actually consider taking testosterone. Now, that doesn't mean, though, to answer your question, that if you did start down the testosterone replacement therapy route, that you couldn't feel better, but you're just not going to get a doctor in most cases to write you a script for testosterone with a natural total testosterone level of 700.
Yep. Yeah, and I know when I first started TRT, I mean, my total level was like 311, or something like that, and that's why they put me on there. And since I've been on synthetic testosterone replacement therapy, again, for me, when I get my test done, I mean, I didn't start really feeling really good like I thought I would feel on it until I got around that 1,200 range level.
And we're not taking into account for what your lowest reading is during the week, Josh. You may be at a 700 for 2 days or a day. Right. If his total test natural is 700, depending on when he took the test, if it was in the morning, I mean, that's an indicative factor of what he's getting every day, day in, day out, a very stable level. And so us injecting synthetic testosterone, unless it's an everyday or, in some cases every day, we're going to have peaks and valleys where we're going to have 1,100 and, that might go down to 700 for a few days or a day. So it's not an apples to apples comparison.
Yep. Love it. All right. Well, that looks like all the questions that we have here. You guys got anything that you want to add before we wrap this bad boy up?
No, I'll just say, next week, I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be in Spain. So I don't think I'm going to have internet care. So hopefully, I definitely want Jim to talk about Forge training because it's coming. I know that we have 90 days to optimize and Forge coming. We have a lot of amazing products coming from us. The Metabolic Blood Torch Diet should be my mid-September. The Advanced Strategies Edition, which, by the way, we've added some stuff. We'll talk about it on another call, but we're going to have a chapter on there for the Warrior Angel Foundation. So we're going to really focus on the American service veterans and how they can get TRT and what they can do when they come back and not have to deal with the VA. So the book is going to be light years better than the first edition. A lot of new material, a lot of new content, and I'm telling you, man, the people that are helping us edit it, it's going to be amazing. So I'm really excited.
It's even more encompassing of all testosterone therapies and different types of treatments, and it's an expanded book, not just how to treat yourself and be proactive for your health, but all kind of different modalities of testosterone usage and how it's used. So it's definitely more educational, has a lot more information.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly, I hate saying this because, people say, oh, it's like a steroid Bible or something. But, I mean, this is literally going to be the Bible of hormone optimization. We're also going to have a chapter in there from Dr. Jim Meehan and Monica talking about HRT for women. Jim's got an acronym he's literally patented called Mindset, and I won't give you what it stands for. But, I mean, the guy's – it's just amazing. And so it's going to be a doorway to their next book, which will be on hormonal optimization for women. I've spent a lot of time in the last 3 weeks looking at the marketplace, and absolutely the books that are out there for hormone optimization for women are abysmal. And that's being nice. It's like, it's like Jim says, the reality is that all these suits that happened in the mid 2000s because all these women were on Primera and Primera or whatever that was, which was equine, estrogen and progesterone combination, and there were uterine, and it led to uterine and fibroid tumors. I mean, it was all inconclusive, but a lot of people had cancer, and they literally just, the entire industry in the world for hormone optimization for women shut down. And since then, it's been like, fringe doctors that would even go down this path. Most of them have no idea what they're doing. There are great doctors out there working with women. We know them. But they, a lot of those guys are just not willing to come out there and expose themselves. But, Jim's been working with women now for 11 years. And he's like, nope, the time is right. It's time to put this out there. It's time to have someone like Monica, be the position head or the fountainhead for women to say, hey, you can age gracefully, have kids, have a job, have a world, and optimize your hormones just like a man can. So anyway, we're very excited about what's coming. And then as you know, Job, we got all these amazing products that are right around the corner. So I'm pumped, dude.
Yep. Awesome. In the meantime, you guys, you heard it from many people that were watching, that were commenting on the podcast today. Go get your bottle of EMF. That's at www.optimize Life Nutrition. It's an epic, just mind-blowing product, right? And then go definitely, we highly recommend it. There is an absolute reason why Jim, Jay, and myself work with Dr. Aaron Grossman at Checked. So go check out his services at checkmybloodwork.com. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys.